Hey guys, so I want to look at the last video I posted. Check out a few comments.
I eliminated a place for you to go. Figure it out.
So this is the video I posted today. It's centered around vegan gays who did a debate on the Crucible. JD from Garland Farms was debating vegan gains and Nutrivore. It was a horrible debate. They pretty much were just trying to do a debate tactic to paralyze the conversation. Really JD never got around to trying to support his premise or his proposition. Instead, they just wanted to focus on the proposition itself. Like I said, just debate tactics and stuff like that. Why didn't they just, the proposition that they accepted, they could have just started with that, said, okay, what's your evidence, Garland? Garland would have put down the information that he wanted to express, and then the vegans could respond to it, debunk it, debate about it, criticize it, whatever you want. It would have been a lot more interesting if Garland Farms was able to actually, put out the information, and then the viewers could decide and the vegans could scrutinize it. It would have been a lot more interesting than spinning around like an idiot in circle. You guys, vegan gays and Nutrivore, you guys really looked foolish. The viewers knew what you were going to do. What happened is Garland Farms leveled so well Jeffrey and Ali during the first debate on the Crucible that these little philosophers thought that, the little debate club with all their little debate tricks, trying to win that way. Because if Garland Farms was able to just give his opinion and support it, one thing I really don't like with the Crucible is these debates. The viewer needs to see what you're saying. So if you have like a study, they're popping up studies between each other and stuff like that. Maybe they could see the screen, but I don't know. Like with StreamYards, it's very easy when it's your time to speak for the moderator to accept your screen, and then you can express yourself. And the viewer can kind of see where, it gives like a form of a citation, at least, even if it's just a visual image, people will get an idea where you're getting it from. So that's another thing I didn't like about just the format of the debate. All right, so let's, anyways, this one was Vegan Gays was talking about how great turkeys are and how horrible we are to be eating those turkeys and joking around. And again, I kind of explained the crop deaths that can occur. We don't really have the numbers for crop deaths, but even if we do not have the numbers, even if I concede and say, you know what, there is a significantly more animals that die for livestock industry compared to the wildlife that are affected from all the chemicals, pesticides, insecticides, rodenticides, the crop shooting. The American Wildlife Foundation, I don't know if that's what it's called, but anyways, an official government agriculture foundation or institute killed, I had it cited in this video, like 1.3 or 1.7 million wildlife just to protect the crops. So the difference is that, well, first of all, animals are not humans, and they're not like Disney characters. A lot of them, obviously being transported, probably don't enjoy that. Once they get into the slaughterhouse, they are slaughtered quickly. They're not like stabbed repeatedly, You know, they're not beat up. It's a quick process. Sometimes it's a bolt gun. There's various methods, but it's done quickly. So let's look at it in, you know, the animal arrives, the animal is slaughtered, right? Not murdered, because they're not human. So we don't say we murdered them. That's when we're referring to other human beings. So we slaughter them, and they're dead. When you do the rodenticides, as I expressed in this video, you know, there's various rodenticides, but one in particular is the one with anticoagulants in it. And in the video, I explained that this affects the wildlife tremendously. And these rats, moles, voles, these kind of smaller critters that are very intelligent. Rats are quite intelligent. So she's trying to like talk about the turkey. And I find it hypocritical. And what most people just want vegans to acknowledge is specifically that, you know, just acknowledge that all forms of agriculture cause death and suffering. It's just an unfortunate fact. And the more that the local farmers lose their land because of all the restrictions and what they're doing to the livestock industry. All of this. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, the more that we move from this one, the more that we move away from local farmers, and that's how the landscape used to be. There's farms everywhere. A large amount of the workforce, people, like a lot of people were farmers. So these large, you know, ranches and stuff like that with the cattle, which they still have here in Canada. Up in Alberta, it's all grasslands. So a lot of our meat is not these feedlot types, these massive things. But what's happening is every time you squash a local farmer because of bureaucracy and all sorts of stupid stuff like that, then it just keeps on going to larger industries. So the large monocrop industry is horrible. And a lot of the livestock industry, especially the fact that they're feeding them grains, is horrible. But don't forget that these ruminant animals are not supposed to be eating corn, soy, wheat, grain, and rice, and whatever else you have. They should be eating grass, and it's a pretty simple fix. Why does everybody think that people have Discord? I'm not wasting my time with Discord. Anyways, he says, after watching this, challenging me on the whole suffering and death, that vegans have to admit they have blood on their hands, especially if they're vegans that are just buying, you know, all of these vegetables and fruits that are GMO'd at grocery stores coming from these large farms too. So he wants to debate me on the topic of the crop deaths and the suffering. One thing I want to say, and this can't be quantified, is that the livestock, when they're slaughtered, like I said, it's done quickly. This is all about money. These people, you know, are there for their 8-hour shift. There's a process to do it. There are, you know, laws that are put in place by the animal welfare and stuff like that within these slaughterhouses. They're visited. There's standards that have to be met. And if you look at the amount of time of suffering from that animal, a couple of seconds when they're going in for the slaughter, but the rodenticides that can last, I said weeks, I don't think it's weeks, but it's like, sometimes 5 to 10 days, and sometimes longer. Some of the rodenticides have anticoagulants in them, and the animals have to eat it multiple times, and they overdose on the anticoagulants and they slowly bleed to death. Other wildlife, second generations, eat those, and they can be poisoned as well, slowly. And then even third generations. So it really affects the whole ecosystem. I went through in this video statistics when they analyzed like wildlife, coyotes, etc., and certain birds and stuff like that. They were all tainted with anticoagulants because this is one of the poisons that they use for vegans to be compassionate and put that on their plate. So he wants to debate me on this topic. The thing is that if you look at one cow that's slaughtered and what is suffering, there is the intensity, there's also the duration. So animals are slaughtered, okay, in a very low, small duration of time, right? And it's done, unfortunately, we have to kill them, but it's done in a way to minimize the suffering. But when you look at the monocrops that you guys are using, you have all these wildlife that are being poisoned, being shot, being trampled in the harvest, stealing their land away. And when those animals die, it's not quickly, it's slowly, and the intensity is a lot more. So one cow compared to one rat. If we look at that, should we say that's 1-to-1? Because we're looking at not only death, but suffering. So if you look at that, okay, this rat that might have taken 10 days, that's many seconds of suffering for one wild animal. You guys, we are acknowledging that, but we believe that we have to eat animal food because we're not delusional. We understand that there's actual nutrients that we keep on repeating to you guys that are not available. You guys can pull this vegan cult all you want, and it's only because right now we have fortified food. We're in an industrial age where we can mass produce food and we can fortify it, and you guys can suck down your supplements, and you guys can try and maintain your muscle as long as you can with tons of scoop and smoothie bowls with vegan protein powder. There's a lot more suffering, okay, that is attributed to you guys. Now, omnivores eat those plants too. I agree. See, the problem is that the omnivores aren't denying anything. You guys are denying. You guys are minimizing. And as I said before, okay, if I'm buying, have big freezers, and I buy one cow, one lamb, one pig, that's 3 deaths. You do it at the local, butcher over here. Then after you have tons of chickens in your backyard, you live primarily on cheese, dairy, butter, no deaths there. There's farms just over here that make St. Albert cheese. So I'm eating the cheese locally, dairy farm just down the road. And so there's no death there. Okay. There's no problem having milk from a cow. And there's no problem eating eggs. There's no problem making cheese with the milk and kefir and stuff like that. And there's no problem killing 3 animals and stocking those animals in the fridge. And you know where they came from. If you're sitting down doing the math, somebody who is trying to advocate by doing this and even starting to homestead maybe, chickens in my backyard is a form of homesteading, but have a cow, have a lamb, have a pig. I'm causing a lot less death because I'm not requiring any fossil fuel to be planting, to be tilling. I'm not doing any of the destructive tilling at all. So here's the comment that I wrote after he said, you can debate me on this topic. I said, you're welcome to join my live stream anytime. A carnivore diet with local seasonal vegetables, fruits causes the least harm. I have 12 chickens, so eggs are plenty and no death. Slaughter 1 cow, 1 pig, 1 lamb, and feed your family for over a year. Local cheese and dairy equals no deaths. So I caused 3 deaths. These deaths are not in slaughterhouses. Now you have your vegan diet that requires a large-scale monocrop industry, which causes a large amount of wildlife death and destruction to the environment. If you really cared about minimizing suffering, you would eat a omnivorous diet high in animal foods, supplemented occasionally by fruits and vegetables from local sources. All these corn, soy, grains can all go to you guys, meaning the vegans, because cows eat grass. So just encourage grazing and soil regeneration by letting them eat grass, not stupid grains. You want to completely abolish livestock industry, question mark, I should have put. You don't think that's a huge transition? So when I say we need to reform animal agriculture and put the cows outside eating grass, building the soil, you will shoot this idea down. So I cause less suffering and less death than your deficient slave diet. So you can't sit there with a vegan and then they're going to criticize all the crops going to the cows, even though I've gone through multiple times. Where is that? Here, I'm just going to share this one. I'm so fed up with talking. And the thing is that the vegans never acknowledged this. So this is what I don't want to talk to any vegan until they acknowledge this, because it's a damn lie about, let's say, the soy, for example. This is what the first debate with JD and Ali is. And we've already gone through this, that it specifically says soybeans processed to soy cake for feed. Okay, the majority of the soybean obviously is fibrous material, but within each soybean, there's oil. And when it comes to the soybean industry and the seed oils, that this is gold that they feed to us, and it actually gives heart disease. So these seed oils, okay, they just happen to be not a big component of the soybean, but they're still valuable. So they're growing all the soybean. They're taking advantage of sucking all the oil out, and then they make this animal feed. But this is just leftover. If we were not feeding the cows all of this, we would still be producing all those soybeans just to suck the oil out. They're just taking advantage here. And this is where the system breaks down. This is where we're not doing what God intended. Cows are supposed to be outside. They're supposed to be eating the grasslands, and they're supposed to pee and poop and stomp and move around. And this is supposed to fertilize the soil, build better soil, richer grasslands, more food for the cows. They pee and they poop, and it just cycles. This is a normal cycle. And when you're talking about these emissions and stuff like that, if you look at the EPA for emissions, I can pop that up after. If you look at the emissions, it's about 11% for all of agriculture. And I think that there's actually more emissions from the plant agriculture than the animal. I think that I can pop it up after I finish with this screen. Anyways, getting back to this, if you look down here, how much is beef eating of soybean? Not even 1%. Okay, so there's hardly any whole soybeans. In fact, the soybeans fed directly to the livestock is only 7%. Okay, so all of this 20%, okay, is eaten by humans. All this is useless to humans, and that's fed to animals. And then there's some biodiesel and lubricants. We showed this. Look at the amount of soybeans. Look at how many 300 million tons. Okay. And what is it being used for? It's processed. It's all processed. Okay. And they use it as animal feed, biofuels, and vegetable oils. Okay. They use it for vegetable oils, and the animal feed is just the residue. They make money with it. The animals aren't eating the soybean. Okay. And we showed this. Even says here, the majority, 77% of the world's soy is fed to livestock for meat and dairy production. 7% is fed directly to animals as soybean, but the remainder is first processed into soybean cake. Soybean cake, sometimes referred to as soybean meal, it's a high protein feed made from the pressurization, heated treatment, and extraction process of soybeans. The oil is extracted from the soybeans to leave a protein-rich product. The oil is extracted and fed to us. And it goes on from multiple sources here. Okay. They don't want to acknowledge that. Can one of you vegans please acknowledge the soybean saga? Because it's getting really old. Why would we, after seeing the first debate where the soy issue and how it's actually distributed and how it looks very deceptive to say 80% of the soybean goes to the cow, when it's because 20% is valuable to humans and they're making a profit off of feeding the cows. It's like very simple. Let's advocate for no longer feeding the cows all of this soy cake, and for advocating that now the cows go outside, that all of these fields here should have some moo cows and other remnant animals replenishing the soil, walking freely outside. And yes, being slaughtered in the quickest way. And why are we slaughtering? We're slaughtering because it's the unfortunate truth that we live here in the current state where there's nutrients that exist in animal food that just doesn't exist in the plant kingdom. And we've gone through it. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to mention it here because the vegans, it just goes right through their head. So that's what I advocate for. Advocate for regenerative farming. Advocate for supporting before they completely disappear, supporting local farmers. And, let's start, doing protests. Let's start demanding, that animals not be fed grain. It's so deceptive. We have this current paradigm where we're feeding these freaking animals grain. It's not beneficial for anybody. And then they're getting blamed that all this grain, it is wasted on the animals. They don't need it. You guys want the grain, the soy, the corn, go at it, have it. The cows shouldn't have it. So just because it's not like that, and it should be, and then we bring that up and we're like, hey, look, before we abolish, animal food, which we've survived from, the beginning, before we abolish that, can we, look and say like, okay, well, if that's a environmental hazard, then let's stop feeding them that. And it's like, well, the manure is causing a lot of emissions. Yeah. So what are we doing with the manure? Are we allowed putting it where the fields of monocrop are? Oh, no. There's laws and bureaucracies for some reason. For some reason, they rather do synthetic fertilizers that are industrial processes that require fossil fuel that are not really efficient, so that they can have potassium, phosphorus, and what's the other one? Potassium. Is it sulfur, phosphorus? But anyways, so they end up mining for these fertilizers, using fossil fuel. Meanwhile, the livestock farmers are piling up the crap, and they're not allowed to have a relationship, at least with the monocrop industry, where Monocrop industry, no longer feeding them grains. All the leftover manure from them eating the grassland goes not only to fertilizing the land, they can also export that and start using actual manure in monocrop areas. There's a lot of solutions, and just taking advantage of a screwed up industry that is outside of the natural ecological cycle, saying that ruminant animals, their emissions is what is destroying the world, is completely ridiculous. There was always ruminant animals. There was large amounts of ruminant animals, okay, on Earth, and they were always doing the emissions that they're doing. Hindgut fermenters, just ruminant animals. So foregut, hindgut, whatever, they're processing, they're herbivores, they're all going to be creating these emissions. But that's a natural cycle. You see, what's wrong with the cow excreting CO2 and methane that turns into CO2 and water eventually? What's wrong with ammonia levels? Is there other industrial man-made things that create ammonia? Probably, right? So the cow is just a natural creature that God put on earth. Whatever emissions are coming out from the cow is normal. CO2, okay, is beneficial to the grasslands. It's beneficial to plants, right? So this whole idea of like, well, why don't we start like planting a lot more vegetation and trees and reforest areas? Because that'll sequester carbon, right? So the cow is in a symbiotic relationship with the plants, and it's giving CO2 to the plants that it's consuming. They're becoming more lush. It's just a normal ecological cycle. And you have so many more sectors that cause huge emissions, but they're willing to shut completely down the cows. The cows. It's the cows that are killing the world. Let me see if I can get the EPA emissions sector. I'm gonna finish the video soon. I'm tired. If I don't find it soon, I'm just gonna have to put it up on the next video over here. So present, just to prove a point, right? Because everyone's talking about them cows killing the world. God made these ruminant animals, like cows are like the cholesterol of the animals. Everything's blamed on the cholesterol. Over here, you look at this is EPA from 2016. Okay, here I see emissions 2000, whatever. It's 10 years ago. It'll still give you the same kind of idea. So you have electricity causing 31% of the emissions, transportation 27, and industry 21, and us residential and commercial areas 12, and all of agriculture, including animal and plant agriculture, is 9%. So what we're willing to get rid of all the cows that eat grass, which is not a resource that we need, that actually take this grass that barely has any nutrients for us, and then the cow assimilates it through bacterial fermentation, creates nutrients, protein, and fat that the human body requires. So a whole cow, nose to tail, eating the whole cow, the fat as well as the organs, and the liver provides vitamin C. So this cow is a nutrient amplifier. Okay, vegans are always talking about freaking calories. It's not only about calories. Calories is just energy. Okay, we have ample amounts of calories. Okay, go to any store, the bags, we got calories. What we're missing is nutrient densities. Okay, we're missing nutrients. So the problem is that you guys keep on talking about it. You know, they're eating the soy and the grain and the corn, and we could be feeding humans all those calories. Yeah, but those calories, they don't have any nutrients. There's basically maybe a little bit of calcium oxalate, iron, a little bit of potassium, carbohydrates, fiber, and that's it, right? Hardly any fat, anything. So the whole thing is that agriculture is 9%. And this is agriculture like with the current paradigm of agriculture. That sucks. So if we would improve agriculture, we could sequester more carbon. Is there 2014? Anyways, I'm going to kind of look through these and see if I can make like a small video. Anyways, the whole point is that the cows are not killing the world, okay? There's a lot more stuff. And when it comes to this here, look at transportation. Look what we're trying to do now with the electric cars. So now we're going to ask the power grid to deal with all of these electric cars. So doing the electric car to try and bring down this percentage will only increase this percentage here. And the problem is that you might be driving a battery here, but how much of this is able to be supplied by regenerative like wind and solar? We're not there yet. Maybe 20% can be used. So what happens if everyone buys a Tesla here? Everyone buys a Tesla. Everyone feels virtue signaled. Oh, I'm driving, you know, for the environment. Meanwhile, like you're plugging in and just putting more demand on the grid. California is a perfect example. And here, industry. This no one talks about. It's only they're hitting the transportation. They're hitting us. Believe me, they're going to hit us with the carbon tax here. But this whole 9%, which includes not only plant agriculture, it includes forestry. So forestry actually sequesters a certain amount of CO2. And if we turned the ruminant animals away from the grain and into the regenerative farming on a mass scale, which is quite simple and cost effective, this could lower the percentage because you could actually be building topsoil. The only way of building topsoil, unfortunately, is ruminant animals, because the fertilizers that are synthetic that you guys, you know, you vegans, you know, are using and advocating for, they're not infinite. They're not a renewable resource. They're a non-renewable resource. There's a finite amount. So humanity will get to a certain point where even synthetic farms, farming nutrients and fertilizers are gone, and then we stopped with the ruminant animals. We let that die out. So what are we going to do? We need ruminant animals. Vegans are extremely ignorant of the natural cycles. To blame cows for any emissions, those cows were here before us. All these, the land had tons of wild animals. We've hunted them away, unfortunately, to this point. So there was just as many farting and burping, you know, excreting animals. Okay. Humans are taking fossil fuel out of the ground. We're the ones throwing it up in the air. What else do I gotta say? That's pretty much it. All right. See you. Watch my next video. Go check Garland Farms video as well. Was there something else I wanted to do? Nah, it's good enough. See you guys.